Welcome back, everyone, to the fourth match of the kickoff day here at the America's Hearthstone Grandmasters. If you guys are just tuning in, coming up next, we have PNC from Argentina going up against Firebat, 2014 World Champion, as he is our first and we'll never forget. If you guys have missed any of the matches, what happened today in the Americas, you can check out this graphic real quick. We had Frozen take down Muzzy 2-1 in a Warrior versus Warrior. Then we went to Race versus Nalgidan in a epic Warrior versus Warrior. And then we had Eddie versus Bloodyface in a Warrior versus Warrior. And then for match number 5 after PNC and Firebat, we will have Amnesiac up against Strife Crow, another Warrior versus Warrior.
But this is our reprieve, Dan. This is the matchup that everybody's been waiting for. Warrior versus Hunter.
Yeah, and you know, all memes aside here, I know we've kind of been very tongue-in-cheek with a lot of their commentary about it. The fact is, you know, Mech Hunter is a deck that I think is really underrated right now. There's only one person bringing Mech Hunter to this entire weekend, and that is PNC. And Mech Hunter has overperformed, actually, relatively speaking. You look at its statistics, and it's just really good across the board. And it's not even playing anything particularly fancy. It's just mechs and Goblin Bombs with a little bit of extra flavor there. You got like a Leroy, you got like a Missile Launcher, Venomizer, cute stuff. But outside of that, not a lot of gimmicks, just pressure.
Yeah, I feel like this deck started by, I can't remember who it was. It might have even been Firebat, who just went to his collection and searched Magnetic. And they just made a Hunter deck that was literally just every magnetic thing you could possibly imagine. And then since then, it's been refined and refined and refined to the point where you just saw it. Firebat playing a pretty standard version of Bomb Warrior, as we've been seeing throughout the whole day. He does have a copy of Archivist Elysiana, but honestly, that's a liability being in his primary deck against Hunter, because that matchup is not going to go to Fatigue almost ever. And it becomes an 8-mana card that oftentimes is dead in his hand if he draws it early. One of the other biggest things to note is that Dynomatic. It just doesn't really have that many great targets in this deck, so that's another piece of removal that he doesn't have on hand. So, you know, PNC, I would say a reasonable favorite.
I would say that he's pretty significantly favored.
Yeah, I was floating between reasonable and significant. It's not overwhelming, but I would say between reasonable and significant.
Okay. Well, I would say that PNC is a big favorite in the series. Because
Big's not even on the scale.
Large?
Nope. It's reasonable, significant, or overwhelming.
Okay, it's an overwhelming favorite in my book.
Overwhelming favorite is 98% or above.
Okay. He is an overwhelming favorite.
Wow.
In
Okay.
this head-to-head.
Bold call, Dan. Bold call.
For this first game, at least. We will see if Firebat's techs for secondary and tertiary deck can give him a fighting chance. And, you know, I think going into this match in particular, pay attention to how Hunter utilizes its resources. I think one of the things that's super scary is not necessarily the Venomizer Magnetic combo with Missile Launcher. In fact, Firebat was one of the people who loved playing that combo back in the day, about a year ago for the Boomsday Project. But the Spider Bombs and 9 Lives and all these other different things that they can pull off is kind of ridiculous with Fireworks tech. And it just eliminates almost anything you ever develop. So the way to combat that is getting Dr. Boom Mad Genius. Surprise, surprise. Hero cards do really powerful things, and that's going to be one thing I look forward to. If Firebat doesn't get Dr. Boom Mad Genius, how is he going to be able to handle the onslaught of mechs? And can PNC pressure enough without overcommitting to resources, because things like Brawl really slow down your momentum, because this Hunter deck struggles with the classic Hunter problem of not having card draw due to the fact that Master's Call and all these other great effects are B-centric.
Wow. Great explanation, Sir Dan. Great explanation.
I was ready, man.
You were rearing and ready to go. I was ready for the Bomb Warrior Mirrors. You were looking forward to this match all day long. I could tell.
Whew. PNC with a mulligan of the Mecharoo. That's the only 1-mana minion in the deck, and yet he threw that away. Things like Venomizer and Direwolf Alpha, totally get it, because those get better over time with the more Goblin Bombs you have. But this is how much PNC values having a better opening hand against Warrior, because, you know, some of the more powerful cards that are in Mech Hunter also aren't in this. For example, PNC doesn't have a Mechanical Whelp. That's a Death Rattle mech minion that you see sometimes in the Mech Hunter, but largely they've been cutting it to gravitate towards more aggressive lists.
Interesting.
Firebat having the Town Crier here is also fairly impactful. Should PNC have had that Mecharoo, but it's also just getting him more impact minions as opposed to the other stuff that he usually has, which also pretty decent pickup when the board gets full of too many big things.
You know, Firebat looking like he's taking notes.
Yeah,
which is is a good sign for Firebat fans, because Firebat, when he's on point, is one of the best hand readers in the entire game.
Right. Just a quick breakdown of what we can expect here. PNC does not actually have any of the 9 lives mechanical whelp combos. Instead, he is choosing a lot more lower drops. Like he has the double acidic swamp ooze, which was highlighted. We'll see if he's able to capitalize on it. I think one of the cards that people also underrate in this deck is Ursatron. We mentioned that it does struggle with card draw, and without tracking, Ursatron is another way to help get you to chain the magnetic abilities.
Yeah. It's chain magnetic abilities, and also can be paired with Fireworks tech to draw you 2 mechs from a single card, which helps accelerate that game plan a little bit further.
Yeah, another thing too is having Galvanizer early on helps you just pressure that much better. War Gear is interesting because War Gear on Replicating Menace does tend to have pretty good success rate. Menace is hard to kill because there's a lot of 1/1s that pop on the other side.
And he just saw Firebat use the one card that deals with Replicating Menace the best, and that's Warpath. So I think just judging by the curve, going Replicating Menace into War Gear seems like the best option, because then you can even follow that up with Ziliax, and then you have this giant mech that's clocking.
I like it. PNC kind of evaluating if it's anything worth dropping either of these 2-mana minions. Ooze obviously much better against Warrior for a multitude of reasons, but it's also tempo, and I think this is not one of those matches. Oh my gosh. What a pickup here from Firebat.
Yeah.
It's really big.
It's really big, and I was going to note in Firebat's primary deck, he has 1 Wrench Caliber and double Weapons Project.
Right.
So there are 3 weapons, and maybe PNC was thinking, okay, well, 1 Wrench Caliber, maybe I can start hedge against 3 weapons potentially. And he does have a second copy of Acidic Swamp Ooze in his primary deck as well.
Right. But just imagine if he didn't have that, you'd be able to start clocking your opponent every single turn for 3 until they had a rush man to deal with it. So I like that play from PNC, even though, yes, it looked pretty bad based off the way it lined up. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Explodinator.
Great pickup here.
Is, yeah, Harrison Jones great, but Explodinator is also great. It is one of the highest win rate cards in pretty much any variation of Mech Hunter that it's included in. Reason being is because it just presents multiple mechs that you have to remove the potential of the magnetic minions to hit you for a lot of damage. But Firebat going to be able to cycle through this deck quite aggressively and pick up some removal tools.
This Harrison Jones is big because now Firebat can basically offset the weapon damage, and also he can contest the War Gear reasonably well now. Like, War Gear isn't anything special because then Harrison plus weapon clears it, or Harrison plus extra change clears it.
And so the question becomes, does PNC deviate from the original game plan?
Here's the big problem with Mech Hunter. There's not much room for deviation if you don't play the 9-live Zul'jin package, which I don't think a lot of people like doing because it's just not very efficient. Some people started transitioning Mech Hunter into like Beast stuff. They'd play like a copy of Unleash the Beast. They have the Unleash the Hounds. You know, some play other like one-ofs like Mark Shot and Deadly Shot. A few just random stuff. And then they have Zul'jin to help transition in case they run into the late game scenario. That's not the case. I don't disagree with PNC's choice, though, because he's choosing to play a much more aggressive list, and had he gone up against the Rogues, for example, it'd be much more important to have that as opposed to Zul'jin.
Yeah. And in his secondary deck, he has added double 9 lives, double mechanical wealth Cairn. So if it goes to game 2, then he has that option and has cut a lot of that early game that's bad against Warrior, like Direwolf Alpha Unleashed the House of Mecha. So
personally, I like the mechanical wealth 9 lives build better for ladder. But because you just have a much more well-rounded plan in case your early game snowball doesn't work.
Yep.
But in this case, I think PNC was making a meta read and making it much more focused. Not panning out though, and Firebat having almost everything he needs to pick apart this game.
Yeah. And PNC did go for a deviation, like I said. He's trying to get some type of guaranteed damage, I think. Not that it really matters, because War Gear would have been guaranteed anyway, but he's likely to have a mech survive next turn, which means that he can slap a War Gear on it.
Yeah, I think PNC wanted to get more value off of things like his Direwolf Alpha. Also, War Gear still is relevant no matter what time you choose to magnetize it, except for right now. This Zilliax with Divine Shield is pretty problematic. There's one of the cards that PNC was looking for early game. Also, Fireworks Tech being a very important card, not showing up so far for PNC.
Yeah, didn't have the best start, but honestly had an okay start. And he threw away Mekaru Venomizer in order to try and find something else. So he threw away a guaranteed early curve to get a mediocre early curve.
So I can totally understand throwing away Venomizer even though you have Mekaru, because you're not trying to like the 3/3 doesn't do that much early on.
Yeah, and the poisonous isn't super relevant. It's basically like, do I keep a 2-mana, give a minion +2/+2? Would you keep Mark of the Wild in your opening hand?
The Mekaru on the play is what makes me kind of...
Yeah, because that gives you almost a guaranteed target to magnetize at almost any point in the game. Now, the nod to that could be Towncrier, but Firebat in his primary deck doesn't even have Eternium Rovers. So it's not even like that's a punish for you, being on the play.
He also had Direwolf Alpha, so he could have...
Yeah, exactly.
Could have had Mekaru Alpha in case it got to that point.
Well, if he wins, we can ask him about it. How about that, Dan?
Sure. I mean, I think the reality is when you have Mekaru and you don't have a lot of early magnetize ability except for Venomizer, then I think he felt like he'd rather have the Ursatron and the Fireworks Tech set up.
Sure, okay.
And like, let's be very real, a 1-mana 1/1 that doesn't exactly do much against Warrior. So I think maybe he was thinking big picture stuff, so I don't blame him if that's the case. The fact that it sounds theoretically correct. This Acolyte seems like a pretty decent combo with Warpath. The thing about it is that if I'm Firebat, I want to make sure I can deal with a Boommaster Flark. Boommaster Flark is definitely one of the surprisingly effective cards in this deck because it helps you get over that hump of dealing damage. And every single bomb is a threat for a magnetic ability as well.
Let the pain speak to me.
Firebat being very liberal with his resources, but that's okay. That's what the Harrison Jones was helping him do, which is get a hit on board, even draw cards, and then now he has the luxury of being able to press for damage. He's taking the initiative at turn 6 away from Mech Hunter.
And he's almost always going to have the resource advantage. That's the thing.
Yeah,
like, PNC's not going to be really drawing cards. He's going to be playing multiple cards a turn.
Yeah, this is real bad for PNC.
Yep.
Firebat's going to get really far ahead. Weapons Project. Weapons Project, Militia Commander to get farther ahead on the board. Seems good to me.
Yeah.
I think throwing in the Attorney Rover isn't bad either. What do you think, TJ? He already played Zilliax.
Yeah. I was thinking maybe even Shield Slam just to buy even more tempo.
What now?
Just push more damage.
Shield Slam is exchange for life, I think, at this point, because the 5/5 goes to 3/3, and then the weapon goes to 3/2.
Yeah. You also push a little bit more damage, that's the thing, but then you don't develop a 1/3. So Militia Commander, pretty obviously the Eternal Rover, pretty obviously the better choice there. Now PNC, this deck doesn't fight super well from behind.
No.
If you have 9 lives, sometimes you can. Especially like you mentioned earlier with Zul'jin, but Zul'jin's not even in any of PNC's decks. It's not in his secondary, it's not in his tertiary, it's not in his primary.
Well, I think the logic is that Mech Hunter should, on paper, be favored against classes like Warrior anyway, so you don't need that Zul'jin to go extra. That's, of course, in theory. If they curve out the way Firebat did and also, like, just remove... Like, one thing that I really appreciate about Firebat's playstyle is that if he senses an opportunity to be aggressive, he tends to do it.
Yes.
And it's something that I feel like a lot of players are always on the fence and they rope out. And then they sometimes like do a halfway play. Like I feel like Firebat doesn't really usually have that issue. He likes to just be like, he likes to just go and get it.
Now.
And sometimes it doesn't work out, but a lot of times it does. And I mean, he even got really far. He did well in Star Ladder, got to, you know, one of the top finishes there. Did well in the Hall of Heroes tournament. People joke about like, oh, Firebat's like, he's a streamer now, you know? He used to compete, but doesn't care. He's not as good anymore. Like, if this guy really cares and focuses, he still has some stuff that I think other players aren't doing, which is being able to spot the right times for aggression.
Yep.
This is a fairly... Oh, actually, here, you want something cute? He could bounce his Harrison and actually do it again. Not that he would, it's just like a funny play.
But then he gives up the option to shield block.
Right.
And armor up and shield slam.
If he does do that,
well, he can still do that in
Brewmaster
the Harrison Jones. Like hit face, Brewmaster the Harrison Jones, shield block, armor up, shield slam. That's still a play.
Yeah.
If anything, it just preserves his Harrison's body. He'd rather have the youthful Brewmaster get killed by the spider bomb that's magnetized onto this.
Right.
Than he would the Harrison. He can just play it again next turn.
Yeah, I like that. I don't think Brewmaster is really important for anything else here. Okay. Maybe he's willing to see what dies and then pick up anything else.
Sure, yeah. That makes sense.
There's also Dynamatic, or not Dynamatic, Mega Devastator. So, like, a Mega Devastator with Youth for Brewmaster also means that he's going to shut down any kind of big mini that can be built through Magnetic.
Yeah. I mean, all this is also being done without Dr. Boom, or without any real super powerful thing being done. He's just picking apart every resource.
Right.
The double weapons project, I think, has been the biggest thing that's allowed him to pick apart this board. And honestly, PNC is now down to 9 health after this this swing, and now 5 health with both of these attack to the face. And he could shuffle a bomb in.
Yep. He could shuffle 2 bombs in.
Yeah, if he wants to use the Brewmaster, that's true. But might as well just keep playing for tempo. Seems like to be the right choice. PNC doesn't have a great way to deal with minions. Okay, sure, why not? Just shuffle it back. Okay, he's gonna go for the ultimate value play and bring back the
nice
Militia Commander.
Yeah, that's. I mean, those are some common plays you see in the arena.
Yeah.
Just being able to Brewmaster and heal it back, utilize your mana efficiently. That is nothing. PNC concedes. Firebat takes a convincing Game 1 victory. But don't be too fooled. Yes, we kind of like talked about Mech Hunter and how it's very good against Warrior. And I stand corrected for game number 1. But PNC's prepared for game 2 and 3 in case he does need even more greed.
He is, and this is the only time where I am not 100% sure which of the decks that a player is going to go for. Firebat, his secondary deck, or his tertiary deck has Eternium Rovers, Acidic Swamp Ooze, Acolyte Painter's Caliber. That seems like the one that's a little more anti-aggro. That seems like the one that you'd go with. But knowing that PNC's secondary deck has 9 Lives, Karen, and Mechanical Whelp, Firebat also has a deck that has Big Game Hunters and Super Colliders.
Ooh,
so this could get very interesting. I'm not 100% sure what you do, and that makes it cool, Dan. That makes it cool.
Guess we'll just have to find out, so don't go anywhere. More Hearthstone America's Grandmaster action continues right after this.
See a heart that is stony, and a totem that's all kinda bony. This witch in such danger will soon be no stranger, 'cause she's gonna be our new crony. We welcome you into this room, and we promise your enemies doom. Just one more who's coming. The last one I summon is a fella who makes things go boom.
So you're probably wondering why I gathered you here. Let me take a moment and break it down. We've been given black eyes by the good guys. Oh, but that's about to change. Those meddlesome mortals who've mucked up our missions will finally feel some of our pain. You see, I have a devious plan that requires a demonstrative fist. And each of you will have your dreams come true as a fiendish finger of bliss. What? All right. Let me try this again. Alone, all our dreams went. Kaboom! Yes, but united we'll take the candle. No fish bigger.
I'm seeing what you want to do.
Let me hit it.
We'll come together so we can dismantle.
Now here's the plot to capture your greed and intrigue. We'll take Dalaran for all that it's got. As we form an evil league.
Rise of Shadows is out, and we are knee-deep here as we get closer to finding out who is going to close the Day 1 competition of America's Grandmasters here for the Hearthstone GM League. My name is Frodan, joined by TJ Sanders. If you're just tuning in, Firebat up 1-0, up against a deck designed to counter him. Mech Hunter is preying specifically on decks like Warrior, but perhaps PNC is on a different line of thinking than we are. We thought that he might go more greedy, TJ, but apparently both players are sticking to their primary deck.
Both players are sticking to their primary decks. Now, this is very bizarre. The reason being is because, now Firebat I can understand, because his secondary deck seems designed to beat Mage. It's got double Big Game Hunter, double Super Collider. And his tertiary deck seems like it's designed to beat Rogue, because it has a Eternian Rover, Acidic Swamp Ooze, Acolyte of Pain, Wrench Caliber. So his primary deck is just perfectly suited in that middle ground to just beat Hunter. Now PNC on the other hand, I'm baffled, because he got crushed in game 1. And his secondary deck, all it does is make it a little bit more greedy. That's all it does. It takes out Acidic Swamp Ooze, Mekaru, Direwolf Alpha, and Unleash the Hounds. 2 of those cards, Unleash the Hounds and Mekaru, I think are terrible against Warrior. 2 are okay, Acidic Swamp Ooze and Direwolf Alpha. And he would add in 9 lives, Cairn, and Mechanical Whelp to give him that mid-game punch.
Right.
What are those cards even in the secondary deck for if you're not going to queue it against Warrior? That's my question.
Well, what's the... yeah. No, I know you're totally right, and I think that... well, at least you're right in the sense that it adds more value, but PNC clearly wants to go for the early aggression. Galvanizer in his opening hand, though, that's good to start things off.
But Unleash the Hounds.
Yeah, it's not great.
It could have been a 9 lives.
Could have been 9 lives, could have been a Cairn, could have been a Mechanical Whelp. Any of those actually would have been fine.
Yeah, all of those I would have gladly taken over a Unleash the Hounds. He only has 1 copy in his primary deck. In his tertiary deck, he has added a 3rd copy, but that one looks like it's specifically for aggro. But we'll have to see how this pans out. Firebat, once again, with the Town Crier start.
Picks up another mech. Totally fine. Firebat having the Town Crier and the early game is nice. So he has 2 rushers, the Militia Commander and the Ziliax, so he should be able to respond to any turn 3 play from PNC. I think he is scared of the Replicating Menace. That is one of the harder ones to deal with, but Explodinator is also threatening in its own right. I wonder if Firebat's even thinking about using things like Omega Assembly early on to try and see if he can find an answer to his opponent's threats.
I honestly think that's pretty valuable.
It's just that a lot of the threat check stuff, like Dynomatic, don't do anything against these decks, so
that's
a little bit worse.
That's true to a pretty large extent, but there's also just things that can fit in quite nicely with your curve that make it awkward for the hunter, just like a Turnium Rover, or Beryllium Nullifier, or Safeguard. Like, there's a lot of stuff that can just fill out curves pretty nicely. The Coin Clockwork Goblin, that's the one I expected the least, but what it does do is give an option to Hero Power Shield Slam next turn.
Right, which lines up really well into the Explodinator.
Yeah. So if he Explodinators, he has a bunch of really good trades.
Right, and I think he's trying to reduce the amount of power on the board as possible, or the least amount of bodies as possible, so that things like War Gear don't run away with the game. That usually is a big turning point for the mech decks in general, because I know Mech Paladin is starting to get a little bit of more popularity, is that when you start hitting with War Gear and your opponent can't answer it, that usually means the game is over.
Yeah.
So, that's for PNC, not going to even go for any kind of ding or trade, just try to pressure. And Firebat, he was ready for this with the Shield Slam. Excellent setup here by the former world champ.
He still got it, Dan.
Job's done.
Bomb.
Don't even need to keep track of him anymore. That's cool. I like how this working out for us.
Can you imagine how insanely broken it would be if bombs would just put shuffle in air quotes?
Put a bomb on top of your opponent's deck. Yeah.
And just draw it every time.
I mean, there would be pretty reasonable OTKs. All you have to do is bank a Red Caliber and a Clockwork Goblin with an Augmented Elk, and you have 20 damage. 23 damage, sorry.
Yeah. This is actually a fairly... What's up?
I'm going to purposefully wait to talk until you talk.
This is
what I think it could happen. Oh, sorry, Dan. Go ahead.
That
replicating... Oh, sorry, Dan, go ahead.
That tracking...
Oh, were you about to say something?
That
I feel like where were you going to go? Should I go first or should you go first? I'll go first.
That tracking was fairly hard to actually deal with for PNC because Versatron is super critical, but so is Bluemaster Fark if he's going to have any semblance of ending the game. If you think about it, Bluemaster Fark is an investment of 8 damage because you're summoning 4 0/2 bombs.
It also gives you a wide range of magnetic targets, a wealth of magnetic options, a horde of magnets.
Yeah. A legion of toys and little funny action figurines that you can throw at your opponent.
A gaggle of science.
PNC picks up the Replicating Menace number 2. So one thing that he can, man, if he had Fireworks Tech, I think this hand almost feels like it's part of the winning formula.
What to do?
The big thing is that Firebat has Ziliax, and Ziliax attached to any of those mechs on the board is going to be problematic.
Oh, yeah.
And if I'm PNC, I don't really want to trade. I think I want to Replicating Menace go face.
Well,
that's like a big punish opportunity for Firebat.
He could use Unleash the Hounds to trade. If you Unleash the Hounds, no, he still can't do it. Still doesn't quite get there. He would have to Unleash the Hound, Spider Bomb,
Now.
Yeah, that just feels too inefficient.
Yeah, it's really inefficient. You're left with what feels like nothing. But this also might be the best Unleash the Hounds he's ever going to get. And he still gets the 3/1/1s. So he clears off the mechs. So he gets rid of the Ziliak's value. Honestly, I think this was the best play you could have made. Now he throws mechs on board.
It is. For sure. Like, just because, like, Ziliak's was too much of a threat. Like, he would lose, I think, if Ziliak's came down, and he knows that.
And sometimes it's worth taking those risks, right? It's a one-of, it's a legendary, but you also saw Town Crier being played on one.
Right.
And you have yet to see the Rush Minion come out of that, I believe.
Oh my gosh, Coppertail Imposter here has potential to be super sick.
Wow.
PNC just played Spider Bomb, and he also took a really bad trade. Like, he could have played Spider Bomb and Fireworks Tech and didn't.
Wow, this is surprising to me because of that, that he would go with the Omega Devastator. He had one in hand. He could have played that for tempo regardless.
Right.
The Coppertail effectively...
Oh, wait. Do they know what decks they're playing?
Oh, they do not.
So I think he's considering
playing
the
around 9 lives.
Wait, but he saw Unleash the Hounds. Firebat just saw Unleash the Hounds, and if he's paying attention, there's one copy of Unleash the Hounds in the deck.
Yes.
PNC, if he's playing the greedier 9 lives version with the secondary deck, he should know that it's not the version being played. Players don't announce what version of the deck they're going to play.
No, but the deck lists are public. You can see the player's primary deck, their secondary deck, and their tertiary deck. But as you mentioned, they can pick any one of those after Game 1. Game 1, they're forced to play their primary deck. Games 2 and Games 3, they can play any one of their 3 decks, primary, secondary, or tertiary. But they don't tell their opponent which one they played. And so if Firebat was paying attention, he should know that after Unleash the Hound is played, there was only one copy. That is one of the removed cards in PNC's secondary deck. So he wouldn't have to worry about playing around 9 lives.
Right, and it's not necessarily the 9 lives he's playing around. It's more like, what if the Whelp comes down and then I have to deal with the 7/7?
Yeah, but the thing I have with that is I don't think that's even relevant because he had an Omega Devastator. He played the Omega Devastator that was already naturally in his hand instead of the Coppertail.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm slightly on the fence about it.
Well, he still has the Militia Commander Weapons Project in this position. Still pretty solid. But
Use a Warpath right about now.
Warpath would be pretty good. Militia Commander here actually isn't that great because you want to use it to answer a Magnetic Minion. So yeah, this does make sense to go for the more of an Acolyte setup instead.
Speak to me.
Job's done. PNC would love to set up the Flark, but obviously does not want to give up so many cards to Firebat. That War Gear pickup, though.
That is a fantastic draw for multiple reasons. One, if he magnetizes the missile launcher, yes, he trades over the Acolyte, but the rest of the cards die. Flark, like you said, either he sacrifices some of the value from Flark and only gets 2 bombs, or 1 bomb.
Right. Well, I think you have to even evaluate if you want to trade. I think you want to hit the face here. Put your opponent down to 9.
Yep, that's a pretty good, pretty darn good.
Okay, Firebat can draw. He has 2 options. He can draw for 1 card with the Militia Commander and kill the 6/6, or he can trade individually into a 1/1 and try to play a little bit of a longer game.
I wonder.
Town Crier, he has the mana for it pretty much regardless. So you might as well do that first because you pull out the last Rush Minion and then draw a card. This is where that Coppertail would have come in quite handy, I feel.
Right. No, it would have been a huge difference maker. He would have been able to play it last turn even, right?
Yeah, it would have been a 7 health swing.
Wow, brawl pickup. That's big. Patience from Firebat.
Defend the gates.
Leaving up more 1/1 so that brawl gets better. PNC has 4, 6, 8, 14. 14 damage this turn. He can simply attach Missile Launcher as a Blessing of Kings type scenario and deal an extra couple damage, but he does clear off his 1/1s. That's kind of an annoyance.
But Firebat did attack face with the Weapons Project last turn, which leads you to believe that he has a Brawl. So it would make you more powerful against Brawl.
Sure. Yeah, if anything, it makes you more impervious to what Firebat can do on the backswing.
Yeah, and then he has 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 damage he would push this turn, which means he would put Firebat down to 3 with 9 damage loaded up for the following turn. Actually, he'd push 1 additional, right?
Yes.
This is 4, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So he'd put Firebat down to 2 with 10 damage loaded up.
Now.
Mark.
This essentially serves the same purpose because if Brawl comes out,
He's dead.
he's dead. But he also fills up his board.
Yeah, more magnetic opportunities. Shield block. Brawl shield block. Wow. Okay. Chances are Firebat clears his board. Seems good to me. Although, if he does, no matter how this is cut, he's taking 8 damage, so he's dead to a Leroy hero power. But,
We can let him hope.
but Firebat can also play Ziliax and, or I guess in this case, Militia Commander, and just like clear off the 5/5 and then let it go. There's 2, 4, 6 damage. Guaranteed next turn. That's 15. I don't think he even wants to hit a 0-2, even though it's a free kill. And he might not even want to kill off these 1/1s. Yeah, chooses to hold off. Fireworks tech. Not enough board space. And that's why. You don't want to give that board space for an opportunity to actually squeeze out a little bit extra damage.
Yeah. Can still push 11 with the missile launcher. It also damages his bombs, which forces Firebat to react and kill it, or else he's taking 8 next turn, despite him trying to delay that for another turn.
Yep, missile launcher. I like missile launcher in some capacity this turn, and you don't have space for the fireworks tech, so I think that's okay.
You do have space for the fireworks tech. You just fill.
Oh
up
yeah,
the
you're
board.
right.
Also, you kill off one of the 1/1s regardless, so you'd still leave 1 empty board space regardless.
That makes sense.
Just thinking about what to put it on. I think missile launcher is almost 100% slated. It's just. Where does it go? That's the question.
Yeah, 1 extra damage.
Yeah.
Moving Firebat down to 5. Wrench Caliber's not going to do it. A Mega Devastator Ziliax. This is something that Firebat's been waiting for.
For a long time.
Yep. And now, PNC needs that Spider Bomb. This is plus 5 life for Firebat.
Just 1 spider bomb left.
Oh, man.
Needs it right now. Is there anything else?
Tracking gives him another attempt.
Yeah, Venomizer would allow him to clear
Yes,
it off.
Venomizer is pretty good. Missile Launcher is not it. So the way PNC can take this down is through a very brutal trade. Which is Leroy and something.
What to do?
Leroy fireworks tech? Ugh. He can miss.
The fireworks tech only works on mech minions.
Yeah, he would Leroy and then fireworks tech just
Oh, and
plus
trade.
1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would assume that he'd want to keep the minion alive, so I think he'd use his weapon.
Yeah, that's possible. Either way, that play would cause him to let Firebat gain 14 points of life.
Yeah.
Which effectively just ruins all this hard work that he's done up until this point.
Right.
Now.
That lifesteal's so massive.
Who to shoot?
I guess it would be 10 points of life because he does. He's running out of time.
Oh, he could have used missile launcher to kill his bombs. Dude, he was actually 2 points off of lethal. Because his missile launcher would have killed the other 2 bombs.
Wait.
He needs to...
No, that wasn't that lethal?
No, because he would have to use the fireworks tech on a bomb in order to kill it.
He did. And then missile launcher, oh yeah, 1 damage off. Because you get 2 bombs and then 1, 2.
0 power.
I think he was thinking that he had lethal and he just did nothing that turn.
I don't think he had it.
He did not.
I think he needed to either he needs a fireworks tech to activate it, but yeah, PNC is going to concede. Firebat
Yikes.
just having a little bit too much life, and PNC can press in for the victory. That's a 2-0 win.
Wow.
For the former world champ.
And he's happy, confused.
Yeah, just more like doing the classic Firebat awkward chuckle, like. All right. Well done, well done. I gotta think, PNC probably not happy with how that panned out, but more importantly, it's just like every single point of damage matters, and there was opportunities for him to play more board centric or more aggressive, even change decks. And I feel like there's a lot of junctures at which we probably can go back in that series and think, is this what we wanted to do versus pushing damage? That's a hard deck. And I think, mech decks in general get a little bit of a reputation of being fairly easy because you just want to curve out like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But it can be really tricky to play if you're not careful with all your options because magnetic introduces a different dimension to the deck.
It's every single card that you play almost, like half your deck. It's either, is it a buff or is it a minion? Like that every single decision tree is made more difficult.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, the risk not paying off for PNC in Firebat.
It's a little sad because I do. Firebat is my friend and homie, but it's like also he's like the only non-warrior today, and it looks like Warrior's going to clean up in Americas. Speaking of which, we have Firebat on the line. Can you hear us? Firebat?
Yeah, I can hear you guys.
What's up, man? So how did that series feel for you? It seemed like it came to a pretty sudden ending out of nowhere, so you seemed to be surprised or confused.
Yeah, I was pretty sure that the 7-7 wasn't going to stick, right? Like my game plan for the last 3 turns was, all right, how do I stall for 3 turns to make it to this turn 9 to where I can get this big heal and maybe have a chance? But I don't know, I just made it there and then it stuck. I was like, all right, now like 90% of the time he has a Spider Bomb or a Venomizer or something, he kills it. I'm only at 15, I'm still under pressure. And he just didn't kill it. He just roped out that turn, and I was like, cool, I win.
I saw your face. You're just like, all right.
He had like this. He had like this weird, complicated turn where he was 1 damage off lethal because he had a. He had the missile launcher that would have killed off his own bombs in the fireworks tech. So I think he was trying to figure out if
he had the second missile launcher.
Yeah, he had second missile launcher.
And he has lethal.
So he was trying to kill his own bombs, but
he plays missile launcher. Oh, he had nothing to magnetize it to.
Yeah, he had a galvanizer, but if he did, he wouldn't be able to hero power because it'd be galvanizer, missile launcher, fireworks tech, and hero power. He couldn't squeeze all that in.
Yeah, because if fireworks tech was a mech, then he would have had lethal. But
it was a little bit off.
Very, very complicated turn. But how did it feel? You were the only match today that you got to play a non-warrior mirror matchup.
It was really interesting because I did not prep for Hunter, and I did not prep for Bomb Hunter, and I don't think he prepped for Bomb Warrior either. So it's like 2 specialist lineups where like I could play any one of my 3 decks, and it's similar. So it's like really hard trying to predict what he's going to do, and then try and figure out what the best Q strategy is for me as well, based upon that. So I was practiced like deck 1, and I was like, all right, it feels pretty close to 50-50 against his main deck. And then one of the issues, though, is like his deck 2, my deck 2 counters, but my deck 2 always loses to his deck 1 and his deck 3. So when we were running through all the matchups and doing the whole thing, it got a little convoluted. But Yeah, I feel like I really got pigeonholed into having to run deck 1 twice. And I think if he would have realized that I have to run deck 1 twice because 2 out of my 3 matchups are really bad if I play the second deck, it frees him up to ignore my BGH deck and just play the one with the 2/2s, the Death Rattle 7/7s, and have a better shot against me.
Right.
I don't know. Yeah. So there was a little bit of weird format stuff that happened there that's kind of cool, because I'm not a big fan of the specialist format, but there was definitely some depth to it for this match in particular, with how it planned out, with neither of us preparing for each other's lineups, because neither of us did what the other one thought we would do. We thought, you know, rogues and mages, both of us, right? And not rogues or not mages.
It does make for some really funny Hearthstone interactions when neither player are exactly comfortable with the situation, to say the least. And I think you brought up a really good point, something that TJ was bringing up, is like, yeah, double BGA Superclad seems to be good against a 9 lives deck, but at the same time, PNC chose to play his basic deck, which seemed to play kind of into your hand, so he kind of countered himself by like trying to think a little bit too far deep.
Yeah.
And that tends to happen. So, you know, congratulations, Firebat, on your first victory. Does it feel good to kind of just like be back competing? You know, I know you always kind of waver between streaming and casting, even sometimes taking our job, or just being the deck doctor. But now you're back in contention for the World Championship for the Grandmasters League. What's it like, man?
This is like a really different kind of competing than what I'm used to, because, right, like normal competing, there's such a range of things you have to know, where this feels kind of like college. So I'm just kind of crammed for whatever the test is, the one matchup, right? So I played this matchup, you know, 75 times in the last 2 days. And with multiple different opponents, not just one opponent.
Right, I saw you spamming in Discord like, hey, is anyone online to help me practice? Hey, is anyone online to help me practice?
I didn't want like practice partners that I normally play versus. I wanted to practice versus a range of people to see, you know, what happens based on like what people do most often. It's kind of interesting because a lot of people actually play the deck really differently. Because there's a few ways you can play the Bomb Hunter, whether you're just going full out aggressive or try and go for more of a value-oriented plan. So it's kind of interesting, and I wanted to be ready for all those scenarios. But you only have to practice one thing in this competitive format. Like I just had to play this one matchup, so I just studied this matchup constantly. Whereas normally in competitive, you just study all the matchups, right?
Right.
So it feels way different. I just cram for one matchup, do my best at that, win or lose, you know, forget it, move on, cram for the next test, which is the next matchup against Frozen. So now I got to play 75 Control Warrior Mirrors and figure that one out, and then move on from there. So it's really different compared to what I'm used to, but I think I enjoy it, just mastering one thing at a time. I think it's definitely a more digestible approach to studying for competition.
Yeah, cram it, then forget it. I think that's the the college motto, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Our education system. Well, that's definitely you know, nice to start off with a win. I'm sure that helps a lot. Congratulations, Firebat. Good luck on your next match, and I'll see you around, man.
See ya.
All right.
Got a good old Firebat chuckle in there at the end too.
No, I think he hit the nail on the head, is that you have to go a lot deeper than you normally do, because with Conquest, you kind of have to have a general, broad understanding of what's going on, but you don't have time to practice like every single permutation of matchup of the field, so you have to just pick a lineup and be confident in it, generally speaking. This is like something that Firebat prepared a lot for, but also wasn't even expecting the Bomb Hunter, so it ended up coming out on top despite the fact that he wasn't preparing for it, and it's got to feel really good.
Yeah, it's got to feel really good, and I loved his discussion about understanding which deck to queue, and we were confused by it. I said, I'm surprised both players didn't queue their secondary decks, but when looking at it, you know, it's the mind games are there.
Makes sense.
2 out of his 3 decks are unfavored if he decides to just queue his main deck, and so he's forced into that main deck as well, and it ended up being the right decision in the end. So love to see those types of choices pay off, and that type of preparation pay off for Firebat.
Yeah, we can talk about theory all we want in Hearthstone, but the result is pretty much everything. Firebat walks away with the 2-0 victory over PNC, and that leaves us with one final match. It's the featured one, Amnesiac up against Strife Grow. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back.